Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Friday Charge. As always, we are your hosts, Joel and Sebastian, and for today, June 20th, 2025, we've got a handful of topics to discuss, such as Nissan's finally given us all the deets on the new Leaf, Tesla did indeed launch a new Model S and Model X, and Ford just can't catch a break. So without further ado, let's plug in and get started. All right, Joel, you ready to talk about our first topic? It's an exciting one.
Let's talk about it.
Nissan has finally fully pulled the wraps off the new Leaf. Yay!
Which we just talked about.
Yeah, so this week, Nissan has finally revealed the full specs of the new third generation Nissan Leaf. First things first, let's talk about the part of the Leaf that needed updating the most. The third generation Leaf will be available with two battery sizes, a 52 kilowatt hour version and a 75 kilowatt hour variant. And more importantly, the battery now has active thermal management.
Holy rusted metal, Batman.
The new Leaf is very similar in size to the outgoing model, but takes a more crossover-y shape compared to the outgoing car, which was very much a hatchback. There are four variants of the new Leaf. The S, which is a small battery, the S Plus, SV Plus, and Platinum Plus, which all come with the 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. The S Plus trim is expected to have 303 miles of range. For charging, US cars will have two ports, and it's a little confusing. On the driver's side of the vehicle, there is a J1772 port that you can use for level 1 or level 2 charging. And on the passenger side, there's a NACS port that is for DC charging only. We'll talk about that more in a second. Nissan claims a 10 to 80 time of a new vehicle of roughly 35 minutes. And as of note, I've seen in a couple places, although I wasn't able to find this on Nissan's site themselves, that state that these battery packs are very, very low voltage battery packs, and that they'll need around 500 amps to hit that 150 kilowatt peak target speed, which means you're going to have a bunch of vehicles that don't necessarily, when they pull up to the Electrify America station, they're going to sit at the 350 kilowatt station because that's what they have to sit at to get 500 amps. Anyway, Nissan states the vehicle will now support plug-in charge, and it sounds like it will be enabled for the Tesla Supercharger network as well. On the inside, Nissan is featuring their new OS based on Android Automotive, which brings native Google Maps with route planning and on-route preconditioning to the car. Unless you get the base model, then no Google Maps for you. Not sure how that works. Anyway,
that's weird.
There's also the ability to enable manual preconditioning as well. The infotainment also supports wireless Apple CarPlay. All right, let's talk about some stuff. First off, because I just mentioned it, so no Google Maps, no built-in navigation on the base model, but I presume it also runs Android Automotive and will have the Play Store. So why wouldn't you be able to just install Google Maps on it? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't run. Maybe it runs a completely different infotainment system. Maybe it just doesn't have one. I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
This is the first time we've heard of a vehicle that has two kind of different OSs when it comes to their trim levels. That's something new, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's common on vehicles in the past, but when you start getting into all cars running Android Automotive,
yeah,
typically they all have the same or roughly the same feature set.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a little weird. It's not been uncommon, in the past for the base model has a smaller radio screen, the higher trim levels have a bigger one, whatever. But anyway,
but operating system wise, it can be all the same. I mean,
yeah. Anyway,
built-in stuff. Yeah, that's what doesn't make sense, and I don't know how much money they're saving by doing that, or is it just an upsell feature?
It's probably just an upsell feature.
They're trying to update you to the SV Plus instead of the S.
Yeah.
Or the S. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let's talk about the part that's weirdest to me, and I think is going to be the most confusing. Ultimately, I think this is a pretty dang good refresh for the Leaf. It looks better. It's got decent range. It finally has liquid cooling on the battery pack. It can finally heat the battery pack, etc., etc. It has 2 charge ports, which is not unheard of. You know, the new Mercedes-Benz CLA will have 2 charge ports. You have vehicles currently on sale like the Porsche Taycan and Macan that have a charge port on the driver and passenger side, etc. And on those vehicles, one is J1772 and one is CCS. But here's what I think is so weird is that this is going to have a J1772 port that is only for level 1 and level 2 charging, and then the NACS plug that is only for DC fast charging. Meaning if you roll up to a hotel, for example, and they have a bunch of Tesla wall connectors, you could plug in your Tesla wall connector with the NACS cable to the car and it won't do anything. So you'll need, realistically, in your day-to-day life of this vehicle, you will need a NACS to CCS adapter, so you can DC fast charge on CCS stations. And then you'll need a NACS to J1772 adapter, so you can charge on Tesla wall connectors or whatever else that you might find in the wild. And it just is weird to me. And my gut feeling on this is Nissan found out too late that they were switching to NACS in the development cycle.
Yep.
And didn't have time to engineer a solution to have it understand and be able to switch between AC DC charging on the same port. You know,
and because the Aria does it.
Well, the Aria just has a CCS port.
Yeah.
So in the CCS port, you know, there's different pins doing AC charging versus DC charging.
So it was the switch to the
NACS
port late in the game, and they just couldn't figure it out and said, you know what, we're just gonna
we're just gonna make it DC only and
DC only,
put a second port on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah, because the European cars, from what I've seen, just have a CCS 2 port, and they have one.
Gotcha.
Um,
yes, that's a bothersome thing. You'll have to carry around 2 adapters. I mean, I carry around 2 adapters. You carry around multiple. I don't know if you carry around 2 adapters or not, but I mean, that is a pain in the butt for people like EV geeks like us. But I have to say, this is 100 times better than what the original Leaf was. I mean, the original Leaf was bad.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was bad. I mean, this is like the biggest upgrade I've seen for any EV from first gen to second gen. And it is it's a big upgrade. You know, I can probably get away with the charge ports and anything like that because I mean that stuff doesn't bother me like it would someone else who maybe not know.
And that's my main thing.
The semantics or logistics of how to charge.
Yeah, it's like that's my main thing. Is like for me, it's obviously not a problem because I would have the adapters or whatever, but I could just see it being confusing to someone who say is a first time EV buyer. I mean, because we already see this, right?
Yeah, you saw it just happen right now, didn't you? At Franklin Charging. Yeah,
you're in the Kia group. I'm in the Chevy group. I'm in a bunch of other groups too, and people are still every single day posting about they have their NACS CCS adapter that they got from GM or Kia or whoever, and they're like, it doesn't work on my Tesla wall connector.
Yeah.
I was like, well, yes, because it's a DC adapter only. This is the same thing, but now it's built into the car.
You need a little tiny, AC adapter. Is what you need.
And Tesla owners are also guilty of it. Today, while I was charging at JT's at Franklin's in Little Rock, I saw someone in a Model Y pull up to a CCS station, get out the car, have his little J1772 adapter that came with the car, put it on the CCS handle, put it in the car, and then he stood there and waited for a second before it didn't work, and then I went out and we helped him with because JT has adapters that he loans out to people, and so got him set up. But it was like he didn't realize that he couldn't do that because it all physically interfaces, and it was and that's just kind of and especially a lot of people probably who will watch this kind of are already in the EV bubble, so we know this stuff, right? This isn't a surprise to us. This is common sense, but there's a lot of people who don't live in the bubble. They bought the car because they liked the car and they thought it was cool, but they maybe don't know they're not the end all be all expert on EVs or anything. So they don't know necessarily, AC charging, DC charging. DC charging is using different pins or on a NACS connector. There's a switch basically to switch between AC charge and DC. Like they don't know all that. That doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah, and I guess it all goes back to the dealership experience. I'm like, except for Tesla, but what are dealers doing to educate people when they buy an EV? I mean, when I bought my EV from a dealership, there was no like, hey, we have an EV checklist we're going to go over with you. And they pull out a sheet of paper and say, okay, here's this. Okay, check that off. Okay, here's this. Check that off. Okay, now to charge. This is the kind of adapter you need. You can buy one from us or online. Here's the adapter you need for this. They don't do that. They just say it's an EV, we don't know much about it, and send them on out the door. So I think some of that goes back to the dealerships with not educating their buyers on what they're getting, and
Right.
maybe a lack of knowledge from the dealerships themselves too. So yeah, it's just it's a problem for people who aren't, who don't have a lot of background knowledge in the EV world like we do.
Right.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, moving on. Tesla did indeed launch an updated Model S and Model X. And as expected, we were unfortunately right.
Don't you hate
There's
it when
not a
that
whole lot
happens?
new about these flagship cars.
Yeah.
Tesla has added a new blue color. They've added some new wheel designs, which do admittedly look really, really good.
And I am feeling that blue color on the screen right here.
And I do like the blue color. They added a front bumper camera, some ambient lighting on the interior, matrix headlights, and the Model S Plaid gets a slightly redesigned front bumper and rear fascia.
And I think the logo in the front now is black instead of chrome. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks a little worse anyway.
A lot of people
Tesla
online don't
also
like it. A lot of
claims-
people online don't like it either. You're not the first one.
Yeah. Tesla also claims they've tweaked the suspension on these vehicles some, but otherwise, they're the same cars as before. And new on these refresh models is the price. Every version of the Model S and X now starts $5,000 higher than it did before.
Ooh, doggies.
So we kind of knew this was coming, right? Because we've seen these people have seen these cars out in the wild, and they didn't look like there was much different going on.
Yep.
And now, there's not much different going on, and they're $5,000 more expensive. And the Model S and X continue to soldier on as these kind of cars that are getting long in the tooth at this point. And they're still good cars, they're nice cars, they're fun cars to drive, whatever. But it's the Tesla conundrum, it seems like, right? We said, had the same feelings when they refreshed Model Y. It's like, they just changed.
It's the Apple conundrum. You keep saying it's your best thing yet, but you don't change anything on it that much.
Yeah, you just do minor little iterative changes, and they've proven that there is the tech to do it.
Yeah.
Cybertruck is 800 volt. It's a 48 volt architecture vehicle, steer by wire, all this stuff. But then they're not bringing that stuff down into these refresh models.
Mm-hmm.
Model Y, they changed a bumper, they fixed the suspension, which it needed sorely.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it seems like they didn't really change a whole, and they did ambient, the other little tweaks that they also did on Model 3.
Yep.
But otherwise, they didn't do a ton.
Yep.
And here again, we have Model S, Model X. They didn't do a ton.
Nope.
And
that's
even
been
when
Tesla's rap for the last couple of years, is that when you're putting out these refresh, it's nothing major. It's not like even their software really much hasn't changed much. Their UI and the screens hasn't changed much in the last couple of years. Some tweaks. It's just not. If I own a Model Y, and if I decided to trade it in for another Model Y, I wouldn't see much difference. Yes, better suspension, which yes, that needed to happen, but when I buy a new car, I want to see differences. I am that person. When I get a new car, I want to say, oh, this is a lot different than the previous model that I have. And it's not doing that. You're right.
And of course, and I say this as someone who also will in the same breath say that the Model 3 Highland was a huge improvement over the previous car, even though on paper it also maybe didn't have that much going on.
Yeah.
Redesigned front and rear end, nicer interior, more efficient motors.
Yeah. You drive a 2018 Model 3, it's a pretty rough drive.
But the new Highlands are excellent.
Yes.
And they're the ones to get. But
yes.
They're not
We're
2018
seeing
Model 3
reports of a
price
lot
yet.
of people saying I had a Highland, bought a Y, and I want to go back to a Highland. They just they like it more than the Y for some reason.
Yeah, so I don't want this to come off as just me hating on Tesla, because ultimately I don't know that they make any cars that are bad cars.
No. Because according to the comments, we're Tesla fanboys. Sebastian. According to the comments we get, we are Tesla fanboys.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways, yes.
But yeah, I want to make it clear. I think Tesla, all of their cars right now are good cars. Model 3 Highland is excellent. I'm sure I haven't driven new Model Y yet, but even old Model Y, yes, it had its issues. The suspension was terrible, some little things like that. But ultimately, there's a reason it's the best-selling car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cybertruck, it looks like that, but it does push the envelope on a lot of tech stuff. There's a lot of actual cool stuff to it. Yes, maybe the charging performance is not near where it needs to be. There might be, it has compromises. Every vehicle does.
It does.
Model X is probably my least favorite one in the lineup.
Model X just has a lot of things that can go wrong with it. I can get quite pricey with it later on.
Yeah, and Model S is in a similar boat, although Model S is a hoot and a half to drive.
I would take a
They're
Model S
so-
over a Model X any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, they're just so fun to drive.
We'll
They're
talk about that in a little bit.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, this new S and X is basically, in my opinion, a big nothing burger. It's like, oh, good, you added a couple things after like how long has it been?
2018, 2017, 2016.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they did a little bit of refresh in like 2021 for the interior. They did change some stuff, but ultimately it's been 4 or 5 years since even then, and they added ambient lighting and some new wheels.
Yep.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yep. And the range.
The new wheels do look sweet.
It's 410 miles of range now, which is pretty decent too, though. So
yeah, the new wheels do look sweet, but it's
They
also
do.
$5,000 more expensive.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Ford can't catch a break, man.
Man, they can't.
Ford this week has issued yet another EV recall. This one has also initiated a stop sale for the Mustang Mach-E. Funny timing. This recall affects over 300,000 vehicles spanning the 2021 to 2025 model years. This recall is due to the fact that Mach-E does not have real door handles.
It
That's
doesn't.
not unique to the Mach-E.
No.
But that the way it handles it is.
Yeah.
So here's the concern. If the 12-volt battery suddenly loses power, the doors stay in whatever state they were in whenever they lost power.
Mm-hmm.
The driver or front passenger could exit the vehicle using the emergency release in the front doors. However, the car would remain locked, meaning someone could be trapped in the back seats, which do not have an emergency release until 12-volt power is restored to the vehicle. Now, the Mach-E does, like Teslas and other cars, have a method to restore power to the vehicle by removing a cover on the front bumper to pop the frunk. Then you can jump the 12-volt battery.
Yeah.
But the concern here, I guess, is, I say I have a Mach-E, I get out of the car, the 12-volt has died. The way the Mach-E, some of the way the Mach-E does its logic is it doesn't, for example, in a Tesla, you get out the car kind of stays on for a little while after you get out, right? Before the contactors finally disengage, whatever. In Mach-E and Lightning, when you turn the car off, the contactors are off. So it is at that point only running on 12-volt power.
So that could happen. You get out, shut the door, 12-volt battery dies, your daughter's in the back, and you can now not get her out.
Right. And the issue is, especially if you're doing a lot of stuff, if you're getting out of the car quick, hit the button, immediately open the door, you might not notice, that your screens and everything went off immediately.
Yeah.
Because it does the thing like a lot of cars do, where you can turn the car off and you can sit in the car and the radio stays on and stuff until you open a door.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing things quickly, you would pop the door open, you wouldn't realize you didn't have 12-volt power. Because the front doors, you can pull the handle and it'll still emergency release. And still allow you to open the door without 12-volt power. But you can't do that in the rear. And so, you could, I as a parent, say I could get out the car, open my front door, close it, then realize, oh crap, I have no power. I can't get my daughter out of the back seat. Now I'm breaking a window.
Yeah. I mean, Tesla's the same way. They have the emergency releases in the front. I do not believe they have the emergency releases in the back either.
I think Model Y does. I think it's just not in the same location.
I'll have to look. I've never been able to locate, but maybe my kids have. I don't know. So I could be wrong.
And
let me know.
Again, this is not specifically unique to Mach-E as far as like the emergency release things. The issue that is unique to Mach-E is essentially they don't leave the contactors on.
Yep.
And so you could basically turn the car off. The 12-volt battery has died while you were driving, but it was still being held up because the DC to DC converter was on.
Yep.
And then as soon as those contactors shut off and it shuts off high voltage power, boom, you have no more 12-volt battery.
Yep.
In a Tesla, the high voltage system stays energized for a little while after you get out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing like on a Rivian and some other EVs. So it's just kind of a combo of, since Mach-E doesn't behave like that, and it also doesn't have door handles, and an emergency release in the back, et cetera, you can really have a trap situation, which is not good. So we'll see what Ford's fix on this is.
Yeah,
I'm interested. It'll be interesting.
What would the fix be? Would it be the 12-volt battery disengages, all doors unlock?
Or would it be, do they find a way to program it to keep contactors on longer?
Yeah.
Do you get like a 1-minute timeout after you open the door before contactors turn off? Like, I don't know. Because that could, I guess, there's probably a situation they could you could turn the car off. They could disengage the drive rail.
Yeah.
But leave stuff like the DC to DC converter powered on.
Yep.
For however long, and then eventually shut it off. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm sure it'll be a software update situation. It might be over the air. Might be have to go to the dealership to get it fixed or to get it applied. Who knows?
Yep.
But anyway, it'll be interesting because for now, they can't sell the cars, which is a perfect transition. Joel, what do we drive?
We drove. So we had a busy weekend, y'all. So we knocked out a bunch of reviews this weekend, which was nice because we had some nice weather, almost too nice of weather. So we headed on down to Everett Ford and here in Arkansas, in Benton, Arkansas. And first off was the 2025 Mustang Mach-E. So just by looking at it, probably not going to notice much difference from the 2024 Mustang Mach-E, but there are some internal differences. And we always say we don't realize how much we like the Mustang Mach-E until we actually get back in it. And I think that's true. It's always one of those cars that we drive and we forget about, and then we get back in and we're like, oh yeah, this really does get it. So yeah, I mean that was my impression of it. I mean, it's got some updates. 500 volt or 500. Is that right?
500 amp.
500 amps. Sorry, 500 amps now.
No,
that's Lightning.
Lightning.
That's Lightning. Sorry. 2025. So what were the updates? I can't remember off the top of my head.
See, heat pump.
Heat pump. That's right. That's a big one.
Slightly redesigned interior.
Tires.
Some wheels. New wheel options. Some new exterior packaging.
Yep.
And some new features in the infotainment system. I'm not going to go too far into detail on this because if you really want to find out about it now, it is technically uploaded on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. So if you're one of our,
you have to be a channel member to get to it. Otherwise, it will come out at 10 a.m. Monday.
If you're one of our channel members, you can go watch it this weekend, and we're not going to talk too much about it. But yeah.
Yeah. After that, we drove a 2025 Ford Lightning Flash.
So yeah, and once again, great cars. I mean, when you talk about Mustang and when you talk about Mach-E and Lightning, they're solid built cars. They're good. They're quality built cars. Ford can build a car. That's not like a Tesla. You were like, oh, look at the panel gaps, or this isn't lined up. You're probably not going to have that issue with Ford a lot. They can build cars. Really liked it. Like I said, not much changes. It's the 500 amps. Not much other change to the inside. It already had the heat pump, correct?
Yes.
Heat pump was in the 2024 model. Yeah.
Yep.
It already had the heat pump. But yeah, just another that we'll have the review on in a few weeks. Just a really great car to drive. And
it did have slightly different battery pack.
Yeah, and it had some different thing with the adjustments in the range too with that battery pack.
More, some slightly different infotainment system features specifically relating to EV charging. Different interior materials on the Flash trim for 2024. It was interesting because we drove a 2025. We drove a 2024 Flash not that long ago, so it was still semi-fresh in the mind. So it was interesting to be able to kind of get them so close to each other and actually be able to like, oh yeah, that's different. That's different. That's different.
It was fresh in our minds. That is correct.
Yeah, it was good. And then we went and we drove some used EVs that were fun. So I had this idea because and I don't know why it kind of popped in my head that we review all these new EVs. Well, a lot of people are starting to buy used EVs because they're starting to come off their leases. Those people who've leased these things 2 or 3 years ago, they're starting to come off the leases now. A lot of people are trading them in, so we're starting to see a lot more used EVs on a lot. I'm surprisingly seeing a lot more Tesla used EVs on regular dealership lots now. When I drive past a Kia or a Hyundai, it's not shocking to see 1 or 2 Teslas out there now. That's not how it used to be. You'd only see them at specialized EV lots or things like that. But now you're starting to see them more. Some of these cars do qualify for tax credits. Some of them don't for as long as it lasts. So I thought we'd do a cool series on just seeing how these cars are holding up after 20, 30, 40, 50,000 miles. Are there rattles? Are there squeaks? How's the interior holding up? Are things wearing off? For the most part, like that. So we got to do some used EVs. And the first one we did, which we thought was completely that we weren't expecting, was the Mini Cooper SE. So yeah, we don't see that a lot in Arkansas. We don't see a lot of Mini Coopers a lot in Arkansas. But our buddy Colin down at Evolve Auto got one in. So Sebastian, what are your thoughts on it? Because when I showed you the picture, you were kind of stoked about it. It's a road legal go-kart, man.
Yep.
I mean, legitimately.
Yep.
It was on snow tires, which was a bit of a detriment, unfortunately, because we don't use snow tires in Arkansas. That's not a thing.
Is that kind of driving a Twizy almost, wasn't it?
I guess, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it was funny having two 6-foot-tall dudes in the front seat of a Mini Cooper. We were very close to each other. It was a tight fit.
Very
intimate. Man, it's
very
like
intimate.
driving a go-kart. It had good power. I mean, it doesn't have like a ton of power or anything, right?
Nope.
But because it's so small and it's zippy, because that's what Mini Coopers are supposed to be. They're supposed to be zippy little fun cars, and it was.
Yep.
It has no range because it has a 32 kilowatt hour battery pack. It has like 100 miles. I mean, that's not nothing.
In the best eco mode, it has 100 miles.
Yeah. Technically 114 according to the EPA. But it's, I mean, if you were just literally buying it and just like going back and forth to town, going to work, coming back, you
taking it on the weekends,
work in the same town, you go do things on the same town, tow it behind a camper, something, I don't know. It was a fun car. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff in it that it did right. And I kind of feel like it did better than some of the modern BMW EVs we've driven.
The first thing that threw me was the circular display. I didn't think I was going to like it. And you said it's better on the newer models. This was a 22.
Yes, the newer models are way better.
This is a 22 that we drove, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And it didn't fill up the whole screen. It was like, it's like what a reel looked like if it's like horizontal. It's just, there was black space at the top and bottom of the circle. But you said with the new ones, it fills up the whole circle now, correct?
Oh, yeah. The new ones are completely different. Yeah. It's like a circular LED display. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of cool lighting on the inside, too, that focuses around that display. It was just a really cool car, a really fun car just to drive. It's one of those cars you just want to kind of take out for the day and have some fun with. But yeah, it was a really cool car to drive.
I loved the yellow plaid
1970s interior.
Whatever interior. Yes. I love that.
Yes.
Also, because Mini owners tend to really want you to know that they're a Mini owner. I'm not going to say too much else about that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The fabric
reminded me of my grandma's couch growing up is what it reminded me of. The color and make of it reminded me of my grandma's couch growing up is what it made me.
But because it's, Mini owners tend to be kind of, there's like a group of Mini owners that are like this. It had a gigantic Mini logo on the side of the car.
Yes.
The sunroof had the Union Jack on it.
There was no denying this was a Mini. You could see it a mile away.
It had like mini fancy all-weather mats in it that were like checkered or whatever. It had like the little covers on the seatbelts, the little not foam, but little fabric covers on the seatbelts that said Mini Cooper. There was no denying what it was.
Little bronze emblems on the floor mats that said Mini on it. It was just the weirdest thing. So yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was a hoot. It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And then we drove
let me go in order here. That's when we drove the Model S, correct?
Yep.
And that was a 2021, 22?
Yes, 21.
Yes, 21. So it was it's the refresh model.
Yes.
Yes, it's the refresh model. It had
not the newest refresh.
No, but it had the horizontal screen, not the vertical.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell the difference. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've driven Model S before. Those things just go. I mean, and this one, honestly, it held up pretty well. I mean, the tires were in good shape. Not a lot of creaks and rattles that you get from a lot of the older Model S's. Didn't see any issues with suspension, which you also have issues with the older Model S's. Those air suspension things are known to need to be fixed, and there it is right there. Look at Sebastian. Huge shout out again to Evolve. So that is the one we drove right there. You can keep that up for our other one too here in a minute if you want to. So yeah, that's what we drove right there. Decent. I mean, not a plaid. It's just they call it the Model X long range. It's a Model X long range. So yeah, I mean it got up and went. It got up and went.
Yeah, I mean they're fun to drive. It rides pretty well. I remember there was more road noise than I expected. Also, it has it has the yoke.
You can see it right there, yep, in that picture.
Yeah, it has the yoke, and I am really, 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 really
not anti-yoke.
I'm not a fan of the yoke in the Model S.
Nope.
It's just so dumb. I'm not going to rant too much because I could probably rant for 30 minutes about how dumb the yoke is in Model S.
It makes sense in the Cybertruck. It doesn't make sense in the Model S.
It makes sense if a vehicle had steer-by-wire or they had modified the steering ratio.
Yeah.
But if
you're only going from like 12 to 3 turning or 12 to 9 turning, think of it as a clock, it works. But if you're having to go hand over hand. The second
you need to hand over hand and there's not anything for your hand to grab, you're just like, what?
And we did that once or
Yeah.
twice. I remember going back towards Evolve. We have to make that U, and it's kind of grabbing at the bottom, then grabbing at the bottom again. It's just a weird. It's just weird.
I mean, there are things I like about it. I like that it gives you full, uninterrupted view of the driver display, which I really like that the Model S has driver display. I also really like in the recent update how they made it to where the cameras come up on the driver's display when you use your turn signals.
How did you like the
That's
haptic
super
turn
nice.
signals?
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. I got used to it quick. It wasn't a big deal.
You know, as someone who thought that was going to be a big deal, if I bought another Model 3 or in the new Model Y, if that's what was going to happen to Model Y, but they stay with the yokes. After driving the Model S, I was like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. It's really not.
The part that annoys me more is the no shifter.
Yeah, it does.
Not being able to just tap up, tap down to go. You have to swipe your fingers or use the emergency buttons. Yeah. But the yoke did, I enjoy the fact that you get that full interrupted view, especially when you're on the interstate and you're going fairly straight. And when you're on the interstate, it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good, easy way to rest your hand. You're not like having to do whatever. And Tesla puts the yoke in it because you're not supposed to touch the yoke.
Yep.
You're supposed to use FSD.
Supposed to use FSD. You don't have
and
to
then
touch
it drives you around and blah, blah, blah. And you don't need the yoke and you don't care.
Yep.
Anyway.
And our last car, Sebastian, which Sebastian has been waiting a while to drive. And
yes.
That is a
2022 Rivian R1T quad motor. Yes.
Adventure. Yes.
Man.
So.
Man, oh man.
Wow. That's all we can say is wow. I got to experience a Rivian for a few days before with Evolve Auto. It wasn't a quad motor. I'll tell you that. It was not that. But this car was nice. I can see why Rivian owners love their Rivians. It was just so nice. The color was awesome. The wheels, everything about this car was just awesome. And and I mentioned to you, I mentioned this in the review too. The previous two Rivians that I was able to drive has some squeak in the suspension, in the rear suspension. When you went over a bump, you hear like a little squeak. This one did not notice it at all.
Yeah,
which I'm glad, because I know that was some issues, I believe, with the Rivian, having some issues with some squeak and some issue with the suspension. Did not notice anything with that driving this car for as long as we did.
Yeah. And that's too, I've heard people say that Gen 1 R1S rides way worse than the truck does. And I remember the truck I thought was perfectly fine. I would not buy one with all-terrain tires.
No.
They're so loud.
Yes.
It was like distractingly loud. And I know part of the reason you hear it is because there's no engine, there's no blah, blah, blah. But like, it was like distracting. I think they look really good. I think they look awesome.
And for our climate, you don't need all-terrain tires.
I mean, not unless you're actually going off-road with it.
Unless you're all going off-road, yeah.
But yeah, other than that though, this is awesome. I need to buy some lottery tickets and win some money so I can just buy it.
Throw up a pic of the Mini while you're at it.
Okay, yeah, we can show off the Mini. Yeah. But yeah, super happy about the R1T. Super excited to have finally driven one. Where's the Mini? Where is the Mini?
Way down the bottom.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, it's a Mini.
It's a Mini. It says it right on the side.
On both sides.
Yep.
And there's that Union Jack on the sunroof that I didn't notice until just now is not lined up on that side.
Yeah, it's probably 4 separate vinyls that they did that with. Yep.
That would drive me insane.
Yep.
Never mind, I no longer
There's that interior. There's that interior.
Look at it. It's amazing. I love it. And you can see on the back those little fabric Mini Cooper seatbelt covers.
One of the few reviews that we did that we didn't do a back seat test. Because we
did not.
We were afraid we wouldn't get out.
I know I wouldn't have been able to get out. It was not a fear. Anyway, but yeah, just that one was a hoot. It was like driving a road legal go-kart.
Yep, it was. It was a blast.
All right. Well, unless you want something to talk about anything else, Joel.
I believe that is a wrap, Sebastian.
All right, that is a wrap for today's episode. Thank you all for plugging into the Friday Charge. Be sure to subscribe to the EV Geek Podcast on YouTube and tap the notification icon to be notified about new releases. Next week, as we previously mentioned, we are releasing our review of the 2025 Mustang Mach-E. And if you want to go ahead and watch that, you can now if you join our YouTube membership. Shameless plug. Sorry.
Gotcha. Also,
if you guys have...
Also, before we leave, Sebastian's got a new microphone. Check out that new
I
microphone.
do have a new microphone.
J-Lab was nice enough to send us a microphone to test out for our podcasting. So I felt bad because I had this nice mic and Sebastian didn't. So we got himself a nice J-Lab microphone. Look at that. Pretty cool looking. Huge shout out to the team over there for getting us that microphone.
Because I picked it up.
Yep. Don't do too much with it. So yeah. But yeah, now you can continue with subscribing and notifications.
Yeah, so if you guys have any thoughts or questions, drop them in the comments below because we would love to hear from you. So long, everyone, and we will see you on the next episode of The Friday Charge.